The power grid has an AI problem. The boom in crypto, artificial intelligence, and reshoring factories is putting a strain on America's electricity capacity, which creates other problems like the rise in renewable energy creation. Here talking about 1 million homes being at risk because of dangerous power quality and power surges. And it's not just US homes, it's commercial buildings, infrastructure buildings, all these factories. It's Canada, it's all over the place. We have an energy crisis either right now or it's developing quickly. One of the companies looking to profit by providing solutions for this energy crisis for buildings in North America is Legend Power Systems. Their product SmartGate is helping lead this transition from dumb legacy infrastructure to smart buildings. I am going to interview the management of Legend Power Systems today, but before I get to that, I want to show you this quick video on SmartGate so you understand the product.
As a building owner or operator, you know it's critical to provide the best tenant experience while keeping revenues up and costs down, maximizing profits and increasing your building value. You know that your core systems are dependent on the electric grid, elevators, HVAC, control systems, and more play a major role in your tenant's experience and your finances. However, you might not be aware of the increasing volatility with today's grid. Power quality issues like volatile voltage, sags, swells, and others waste energy and decrease the lifetime and uptime of equipment that your tenants depend on, increasing your costs. While the utility does their best to limit these problems, they still enter your unprotected building, and legacy solutions to solve these problems are too expensive and consumes more energy in the process, rendering them impractical. Legend Power changes the game with SmartGate. Like a firewall protects your data systems from the perils of the internet, SmartGate protects your electrical systems from the threats of the grid. We automatically analyze and correct power as it enters your building, solving the major power issues before they reach your systems. This eliminates many causes of system problems, allowing you to decrease energy, maintenance, and repair costs while keeping your tenants happy. Make your building better. Protect it with SmartGate by Legend Power.
Now that you understand what SmartGate does, let's get to the interview with the CEO and the VP of Marketing of Sales. So let's get started. Legend Power Systems, I made a video on you probably about 2 or 3 months ago on my channel and is very excited about your product SmartGate. It's hard not to talk about Legend Power Systems without talking about SmartGate. What makes this product unique? What is SmartGate going to do for this industry moving forward? And why should shareholders and other investors be excited about SmartGate?
We fundamentally changed the company a couple of years ago to create this Gen 3 SmartGate product. And our history had been on energy efficiency. But Gen 3 took that up to not only provide energy efficiency, but provide a power management platform that manages all the appliances in buildings. So what's unique about it is that we address all the power requirements in the building. We affect all the appliances in the building in a positive way. We connect right to the grid, right where the switch gear comes in from the grid. So we're unique in the fact that we don't have a competitor, a direct competitor that does what we do. And we found this when we did some reviews with different corporate accounts. One of them was IKEA that looked at worldwide products. And there were things that combined that can do some of the things we do. But one singular product, they came back and gave us the order right across Canada because we are unique. So from that perspective, we're excited about what we're doing because it does all the things that people need to manage their building better. Now I'll let Mike expand on that part.
Thanks, Randy. Yeah. And again, when we look at what's really driving our business forward, look at the global decarbonization effort that's underway. There's really two aspects to that. There's what the utilities are doing, which is typically referred to as the supply side. Then there's what buildings are doing, which is typically referred to as the demand side. So when you look at obviously what everybody hears about is what everyone who owns buildings are doing. They're trying to replace greenhouse gas heavy systems like heating and EVs and the vehicles, mobility, and all of those aspects of it, and they're moving towards more energy efficient solutions. And part of those new energy efficient solutions that they're putting in, whether it's heating and air, whether it's air purification, whether it's life and safety systems, these systems demand a higher level of power. So from the demand side, there's a need for higher power. But also, when you look at what the supply side is doing, or the utilities are doing, the demand is going up because of the electrification. And as that demand goes up, they're meeting that new demand with wind, solar, and batteries, and other low greenhouse gas or emission electricity. And while that's great for the planet, the challenge is that those are what's considered low inertia energy. And when the inertia on the energy goes, and the inertia on the electric grid goes down, the stability goes down. So now all of a sudden you've got a situation where you've got buildings demanding better power, and you've got the utilities providing not as good a power. And that's what creating the market for us, because we sit right in the middle, as Randy said. We sit where the electricity comes in. We rectify it. We put it back to exactly what the building needs before it's distributed. And by doing that, what we're seeing is a dramatic increase in the reliability of systems, the longevity of systems, as well as the efficiency of systems. And those systems create better environments for the people who depend upon the building, and better financial outcomes for the people that own and operate those buildings.
For competition, you said there's no competition in this space right now. That's what investors want to hear, is a moat. Why is that? Is there a hard barrier to entry? Is it the technology is patented or simply difficult to design? Like, why is there no competition in this space right now?
We compete on the energy side for the same dollars that window treatments, HVAC treatments, different efficiency products compete for. But that's one of the reasons we expanded to be a power management platform where we have no equal. So we do have substitute competitors on the energy saving side, because people can spend their money on different things. But let's focus on the platform, the Gen 3 SmartGate. We have, we put $5 million into that product alone over the last couple of years developing it, and over $5 million developing channels. I mean, Mike's team for the last 3 or 4 years has been seeding the market with trials, evaluations. And the one thing you will find is, because you are affecting the power in a building, executives, people making decisions will say, I want to save energy, I want to improve my power, but I can't take my building down and have upset tenants. So they're very careful what they do. They want to go through trials, evaluation. And we've been told by different people that it was going to take multiple years to earn that right. So if you take example, City of New York, we're 5-6 years into that relationship, and now just starting to get the RFP process moving. We've got 2 systems that were evaluated over the last 2 years, which went exceedingly well. So the barriers to entry are, Cameron, fairly significant in that you can't just cut corners. People aren't just looking for a lower cost way to do things or just a more efficient way. They're looking for a total package that's safe. I kind of parallel it to a heart drug. If someone comes in and goes, I've got a cheaper heart drug, my buddy that plays golf designed it, you want to try it for a few weeks, you're probably not going to do it. And that's not too dissimilar to our businesses. There's safety is a key matter. And the other thing is, I think that we've got some great patents in place. We've got some great intellectual capital in the company and people that have spent many years learning. And prior to the current Legend Power with Gen 3, there was about 8 to 9 years of developing a market, looking at the market, looking at different development of products, a lot of work that went in to be where we are today that we have significant value in. So that sunk cost and investment, people, intellectual capital is a huge barrier to entry. And we have talked to large companies that look at us, large distribution companies that say, we like to get a company to 75 to 100 million in sales, then we buy them because they prove out the product and we have the distribution channels worldwide in place. So that's a bit how that group looks at things. Is they don't make as many things as they do buy and then distribute things. And I think the other side is Mike and his team have done a great job working with key recommenders, influencers, people in the ESCO markets, electrical contractors, electrical engineers, hydro, all these years and years and years of influence and work. Because those are the gatekeepers. If you can't get by those people, if you think about yourself, Cameron, if I have something that's going to save you energy, etc., and your hydro says, don't touch it, your electrical contractor says, you're nuts, don't touch that, you're not going to do something. So we've earned that right. And we don't get the question anymore of whether it works. It's how will it impact me? And then Mike could talk a bit about what we've done there with our insights product and sales process that I think also creates a huge barrier to entry, is how we evaluate and go through the sales process.
Yeah, Randy, great points. And again, as Randy said, when we're looking at the types of facilities that we go in, they simply don't work without power. So it's very analogous to working with someone's blood. You know, they don't want to mess around with it. So the fact that we have those proven points, the fact that we have major influences, and that's when we look at our go-to-market strategy. We're focusing on the strategic view right now. We're going after the organizations that shape the market. We're going after the oracles of each of the markets. Like, so for example, you know, if we look at what we've done with the city of New York and the school construction authority, you know, we've gone through a multi-year prove-out process for them to show them what the power looks like, and more importantly, what the SmartGate can do for them. So when they look at it and they're looking to do $4 billion worth of electrification, they quickly realize they're getting ready to spend $4 billion on equipment that's going to consume an inferior power supply that's only going to get worse. And that's when they realize that they can move forward with smart gates and all those facilities as part of their electrification strategy and protect that $4 billion investment. So no two ways about it. You have to you have to have the T-shirt to prove that you've done it and that what you have works. Now, the other thing that it's also worth saying is that when you look at what the utilities do a good job of providing the electricity within the acceptable standard. The challenge is those acceptable standards are very wide versus the design specifications that equipment have. So what we're focused on is how do we deliver as close to the design standard we can in balance with everything else. Like, for example, when you look at some of the competitors, some of the somewhat competitive units that are available, they're more geared towards heavy industrial, where they're going to make more aggressive corrections. As a part of those more aggressive connections, they're multiple times the size of our equipment. They're multiple times the cost of our equipment, and they don't actually save any energy, right? They actually increase energy consumption. So that's one of our big differentiators. So when you're looking at a barrier to the market, there's a natural barrier that come in with the fact that you've got to prove out, you've got to have equipment that works for the types of buildings that you're going into, and that's one of our big differentiators. But as Randy was also mentioning, the big thing that we can do is, there's a term that's been bouncing around the industry for a number of years. It's called dirty power. And when you're looking at engineers, they typically don't like the term dirty power because it's not very descriptive, right? Because if it's within the ANSI standards, you don't have a power quality problem. But at the same point in time, it's not to that design specification that equipment's looking for. So what we are able to do is we're actually able to quantify that with our process, which is called the Insights Power Impact Assessment, where we take our Insights system and we install in the building for a couple of weeks. We gather that data, and with that data, we can actually show them what their power looks like today, but more importantly, we can show them what the power would look like coming out of a SmartGate. And that's really that's really where the aha moments happen, is when they see that their power is bouncing all over the place naturally, and that they're within the optimal range of very, very little amount of the time. They're within the ANSI standards all the time. but they're not within that specified period, within the optimal. And that's what this market insights can really show them, is that we can deliver that power fully regulated to the point that their systems need, where they're going to perform the optimal. And that's why we call it optimal power, optimal results.
Having to go year after year after year doing multiple year trials. The Insight product is the size of a toaster and goes in an electrical room. And over, as Mike said, a couple of weeks gathers data. Then we present a power impact report to executives, which highlights how power is being utilized in the building, where there's areas for improvement, etc. But that eliminated the multi-year evaluations, because people put a system in and they were waiting to say, well, let's see what it does. We can show them the impact, and then we give them a guarantee on certain performance against that power impact report results. It gives comfort. And that's allowed us to have a more professional approach, and allowed us to improve the sales process, which I think also is a huge advantage for us.
That's a fantastic answer. I mean, to summarize in my mind, again, the video that I showed at the start of this interview was 4 years ago. 4 years ago, we were talking about SmartGate as a product and what it can do. And so when I look at the barrier to entry, what you just described is years of relationship building, education, proving and testing out the product, tailoring that product to the industry that you're trying to target all these revenues for. And now, 2 months ago, that's finally changed, because you get your first $2.5 million contract. So if that's an inflection point for this company, what does it mean for Legend Power Systems shareholders? What does it mean in the future going forward? And what are the challenges? When can we expect more of these continuously starting to pop up?
Yeah, I think, Cameron, we had a history of, with the energy efficiency product, we first started out with a track record of success. As we grew and developed Gen 3 over the last couple of years, we find that people understand there's an issue, there's problems with power, there's problems with power in buildings, that no one's addressing it, that it needs to be addressed. And when you look at all the different emission targets and things that are happening in the US, as an example, or an extension of the problems that power is creating, there's a lot of, quote, no pun, energy put and expertise put to solving these challenges on a corporate basis. So from that perspective, I think there's been a real fundamental change, that people understand the market is there, the product works. And I think our shareholders were really waiting for demonstrable proof that the market validated and wanted the product, Cameron. So I think the announcement started over the last 12 months, really building up to this quarter that we reported last quarter. GSA, the federal government, Green Proving Grounds, and working with Oak Ridge Labs, one of the top 2 or 3 energy think tanks in the U.S., U.S. government funding that to design a deployment schedule for their buildings in the U.S. On a prioritization basis. And we've just shipped our second unit as part of that evaluation and development of a deployment plan. And as Mike said, we've got schools, cities, New York, major corporations. And last quarter, people were waiting for the purchase orders, Cameron. They were waiting to say, listen, this sounds great. Everyone loves the story, but give us some demonstrable proof. And I think what happened was Mike obviously brought in a record quarter, and people stood up and noticed and said, okay, I think something's happening here. And I think the challenge for us is to continue to do that. We still see where we'll be a bit lumpy, and lumpy to me means you can't predict exactly when things are going to get done from a sales perspective, but we have a great pipeline. We've got great visibility, great contacts, a lot of evaluations and discussions going on of significance. And I think the biggest thing for shareholders is we used to look at 1 or 2 system orders, and now Mike looks at 10, 20 at a time, and we're working on orders now that are multi-million dollar orders and multi-year. So we're excited about that. And I think the challenge for us as a leadership team is to accept the fact, as we would if we were shareholders, show me, prove me. And that's really a focus we talk about, is demonstrable proof that people can see, that validate the value proposition is gaining traction and that we're on our way.
Yeah, Phil, I'd like to add on a little bit to that, because when we look at the total addressable market, there are at least 1 million buildings in North America alone that could benefit from the SmartGate technology. So when you're looking at the total addressable market, it's tens of billions approaching $100 billion, if not more. And again, as Randy said, it's all about what have you done for me lately? Everyone's favorite song, right? And that's what we're focused on, is bringing those larger orders in. And when we look at it from our standpoint, there's not a whole lot more effort that goes into selling someone who can potentially buy hundreds, thousands of systems, as there is somebody who can buy one or two. So we're really focused right now, as Randy said, on going after the larger side of the market and bringing in those larger orders. And that's made a big difference because, again, if you just look at the revenue cycles from the previous generation to the revenue cycles that we have today, it's night and day difference. It would be multiple years to get to hundreds of thousands of dollars of orders with the old systems. With the new platform, with the new SmartGate generation, we're getting millions of dollars of orders pushing towards tens of millions of dollars in months. And that's the big differentiator for us. So that's what we can expect to see.
So with that discussion, and yes, that's a huge, you say a lot of investors were looking for those contracts. I cover 0 pre-revenue companies on this channel. I do love a good story, but really we're waiting for that validation. You have provided that validation. You're starting to pop up on stock screeners. You're starting to do more interviews as people notice this company. You're still small. You're still going to be lumpy. So I can't expect you to sit here and talk about guidance, but I do like for companies to set goals. I typically tell my viewers to say that a company should have goals. There should be ways to measure your success for your shareholders and for investors. So if we're sitting here a year from now and we're talking about the past year since today's interviews, what are some goals? What do you think people should be looking for? How do you want investors and your shareholders to kind of measure your success for the next, year or so?
Well, I think we complete what we're saying. We bring in the business and secure it. So backlogs is a big issue to us. And our business is because buildings have to turn the power off in a building for 4, 6, 8 hours. We're a scheduled installation. We're not just a stop it in the middle of the day. And, I always say it's not like an iPhone, pick it up Friday and an hour later you're using it. So our cycle from order to delivery can be 6 to 12 months, depending on the timing of when someone does maintenance or work in their electrical room, et cetera. So there's that aspect of it. So backlog is a big thing to us. And I think last quarter started us with over $2.5 million, really focusing on backlog, because next year's revenue rec is today's backlog. And you mentioned 1 year. Our corporate goal 1 year from today is to be in a quarter where we're cash flow positive and we're profitable. If you take the last quarter of $2.5 million and you take the 46% margin that we achieved on sales for that quarter, you're basically there. So we see we can get there within 12 months. And that's really a big goal for us because it's backlog, proving you're getting the orders, bringing them in, producing the rev rec, but most importantly, showing that you're a cash flow positive organization. And that leads to also a goal for us has been, and one of our rallying cries is to manage our cash. We've taken our cost of operation down by about $2 million a year. We're about $1 million a quarter all in for our expenses. We have gone through the COVID and the increase in cost of goods, but we're now back into that 45, 50% margin. We could see visibility to 60% margin. It's just now delivering on those goals of backlog, margin improvement, and 12 months from now, improvement and achieving profitability and cash flow positive, and managing our cash very carefully over the next while. We did implement a policy about a year ago or so that we asked for a 25% deposit with our orders, and that is a huge impact on our cash. We effectively, install very little systems. We have third parties do that for us. So if installation is 30 to 40% of the overall cost of a sale, we're not tying up cash. When we get paid, we pay the installer because we're bringing the business to them. And if you look at roughly 50% margins, if you're getting 25 up front and you get the other 25 when you ship out your door, you're waiting for your profit, but your cash is back in the first two increments of the deposits. So that's very positive for us. So specifically, we've got goals around cash, backlog, rev rec, and that will lead to the following year where we will have some, we're not going to share them today, but some very significant growth in rev rec revenue growth.
I'm excited about the product. I've previously called this a product that's needed everywhere, and you're starting to prove that out, which I think is exciting. This is a good discussion as far as, the potential of SmartGate. And if you're willing, I'd like in the future to bring you on for another interview once we have some of these numbers and we can dissect a little further as far as the margins, the cash, the profitability, how close you are. I think that would be another fantastic discussion.
We'd love to do that, and we appreciate the opportunity that you've afforded us in the past and today, Cameron, and we'd look forward to that discussion, and we're excited to get there. So when you get excited, you like talking about it. So Mike and I would be pleased to do that for you.
Okay, it's opinion time, and I thought that was a fantastic interview. I hope you enjoyed it. One of the fascinating things for me sometimes in the stock market is the amount of patience it takes, not just for investors and shareholders, but also for the company. That video at the start of this interview that I showed you on SmartGate was 4 years ago. And I know some people have been waiting patiently for 4 years, potentially frustrated. When is something going to happen? When are we going to start getting revenue? That is starting to happen now. And while people think that maybe the company was doing nothing, as you could hear from these comments, that couldn't be further from the truth. They have been building a moat in this product, in this space, with partnerships with places like the City of New York, with building out education on why building and owners need this product, with proving the product out so it can be ready for these large-scale future contracts. They have spent years doing this to the point where the company says there's no other competition in this space. And that's fantastic. And it's a great opportunity for people today because this is what I'm looking for. As a channel that doesn't cover and is not interested in these pre-revenue stories out there, I'm sorry for all you pre-revenue stock lovers, I'm looking for companies that are at an inflection point, that are now potentially growing revenue, growing earnings, growing cash, less share dilution. That's what we're looking for. Is Legend Power Systems there? They're getting a lot closer, right? We're talking about, when I talked about partnerships with the City of New York, that's huge. That's not a small contract. That's the City of New York. If they can prove that out like they discuss, if they can show and the City of New York can communicate to other cities, other building owners, yes, this is working for us. We enjoy it. We want more of it. If they can prove that product out, SmartGate, then there's enormous potential in this space. And that's what we're waiting for. Are they at this inflection point, producing revenue, producing cash, potentially in the future net income positive? That's up to you. Go do some research on this company, on this stock. I see that Small Cap Discoveries also recently just released a interview with Legend Power Systems, so I will link down below to the pinned comment for that other interview, as well as I'm going to start covering them, and I do hope to have them in the future to discuss further some of the numbers, their margins, which are looking pretty good, where they're getting their products from. Is that stable? How quickly can they scale up? Do they have some SaaS revenue? Do they have a software platform that goes with their SmartGate product? We have some questions that need answered in the future, but this was a fantastic start to introduce you to this company, and I hope you enjoyed it. You've been watching Common Sense Investing. Thank you for your time.